Here's how to do review 6. Number 1. Begin by identifying A, B, and C. A is the number in front of x squared, B is the number in front of x, and C is the number at the end. Next, we're going to do what's called the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac. By substitution, b is 5, a is 1, and c is 6. That's 25 minus 24, or just 1. Now the quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, which we calculated to be 1, all over 2a. The square root of 1 is 1, so we have negative 5 plus or minus 1 over 2. We do it with a plus. Negative plus 1 over 2 is negative 4 over 2, or negative 2. Now we do it with a minus. Negative 5 minus 1 over 2. That's negative 6 over 2, or negative 3. Solutions, negative 2, negative 3. Number 2. A is 1. B is negative 8. C is negative 20. B squared minus 4ac is negative 8 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 20. Negative 8 squared is 64. Negative 4 times negative 20 is 80. So 144. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of 144 all over 2 times 1, which is 8 plus or minus 12 over 2. Once with a plus, that's 20 over 2, or 10. And once with a minus, that's a negative 4 over 2, or negative 2. Number 3. Now I'm going to stop writing the A, B, and C. If you need to keep doing that, certainly keep doing that. B squared minus 4ac is negative 8 squared minus 4 times 1 times 16, which is 64 minus 64, or 0. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of 0 over 2 times 1, or 8 over 2, just 4. When the discriminant is 0, we only get one solution. Number 4. B squared minus 4ac is negative 8 squared minus 4 times 5. Negative 8 squared is 64. 4 times 4 times 5 is 80, so minus 80, or negative 16. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of negative 16 over 2 times a. 8 plus or minus, the square root of 16 is 4, but because it's negative, we'll include an I, over 2 times 4, which is 8. When we reduce this, we need to reduce all three numbers at the same time. 4 goes into 8 twice, 4 goes into 4 once, 4 goes into 8 twice. Final answer, 2 plus or minus I over 2. When the discriminant is a negative number, as in negative 16, we get imaginary answers. Now we get to solve by any method chosen. We could continue to use the quadratic formula. However, we need to be a little more strategic now in our thinking. First, if we can factor it, we should factor it. Can you think of two numbers that multiply to 8 that add to negative 6? How about negative 4 and negative 2? X minus 4, x minus 2 is 0. So that would make x4 or x2. Number 6. Can you factor it? This is a special product. This is a difference of squares. Once with a plus, once with a minus. We fill it in with square roots. 2x and 3 and 2x minus 3. Setting each of the factors equal to 0. It's a two-step equation. We're going to subtract 3 in the first case. We're going to add 3 in the second case. And finally divide by 2. So we get positive 3 over 2, negative 3 over 2. We could just write this as plus or minus 3 over 2. Is there another way to do this problem? Well, could you have solved for x squared? If you got x squared by itself, it would equal to 9 over 4. And then you could take the square root of both sides, giving you exactly the same answer. Number 7. Could you complete the square? X squared plus 10x, leave a space and it equals 14. The number that completes the square is half of 10, which is 5, squared, which is 25. 25 on both sides. That makes the left side factorable as x plus 5. Just take half of 10 to fill it in, and that equals to 39. We're only 2 steps away from the answer. Take the square root of both sides. X plus 5 is plus or minus radical 39. Radical 39 is 3 times 13. We cannot simplify it. Take away 5. We could do this as decimals, or we could leave it as the exact answer, just like this. Or exact 2 answers. And the last question, there is no x term. So we could simply solve for the x squared. Get the x squared by itself. And at the very end, we'll take the square root. We don't forget our plus or minus. And because there's a negative, we'll need to include an I. Now, for a beginner, this would be a pretty good answer. I would accept that answer. However, the radical 49 over 6 can be simplified. What we would do is we would first take the square root of 49, which is 7, and put it over radical 6. Then we would multiply the top and the bottom of this fraction by radical 6, which is a special form of the number 1. This is the number 1 in highlight. 7 radical 6 on top, and on the bottom, since it's radical 6 times radical 6, it's regular 6. So, including that back into the final answer would give us a textbook answer of plus or minus 7i root 6 over 6. That would be the definitive answer, but I would take either one on a test at this point. Well, keep practicing. We'll see you later.